So let's talk about enhancing brain power and enriching economies. Today, I am formally launching this industrial strategy. So I don't know how many of you thought that we'd be launching an industrial strategy today, but we're doing it. We published this paper on Thursday of last week, and it's getting a lot of attention and interest, which is wonderful because it was a labor of love. And I don't know how many, 60 co-authors or so, many of whom are in the room. So we are talking about a brain capital industrial strategy to try to really rethink how we can improve brain health at scale. Brain capital is this term that you've all heard about today. It includes brain skills and brain health. So brain capital is like the brain health of nation states. It's a term kind of like that. And so it's brain health and brain skills. The skills piece means skills that are relevant to the modern economy, like creativity, like digital literacy, like resilience and adaptability. So that's what brain capital is. It's really a framework, kind of like emotional intelligence is like a framework. Brain capital is like a framework. And what we propose that brain capital is really under siege. We propose that brain capital is so much under siege, as Joe so eloquently noted, and IHME earlier today, that brain capital now needs to be put as a critical pillar of nation states. We need to think about brain capital as important as GDP, road and bridge infrastructure, forest health and ocean health. So we really are trying to rethink the governance of nation states when we talk about brain capital. And it means policy, and it also means investment innovation too. So these are all the ways that we think brain capital is under siege. It's costing trillions of dollars, of course, and we're really not getting a handle on it. So again, we need to think differently, hence thinking about systems. The challenges we all know: chronic stress, COVID-19, brain fog, social isolation, disinformation, all these things are plaguing us, right? And on the right, you can see the results of this. So this is serious stuff. We argue with brain capital that the way that these brain and mind issues are being coordinated across government is just not working, right? Because they're in many ways not being coordinated. We have education sitting out there as a puzzle piece, mental health. We all know that there are like ministers that look after all these different things, and bureaucracies. Sometimes they talk, but mostly they don't. All the way through to the effects of climate and pollution on the mind and such. So this is all fragmented. So how do we unfragment and put this puzzle piece back together into the whole, into a whole? We need a next generation brain strategy. We need to think about new ways of doing it. And Joe presented a wonderful exemplar, and I'm talking about the industrial strategy now. So the industrial strategy, think of it as like setting up space tech. We're setting up the space tech industry, but it's called the brain capital industry. Space tech is just a constellation of technologies that's put under an umbrella, right? It's rocket engines to satellites. That's all space tech. But if you formalize something, you can get governments really interested. You can get governments to entice private sector. You can get the private sector to work with the government. So you can rally public-private support. And now we see space tech is huge, right? And we see, for better or for worse, private sector billionaires getting involved in it. So that's the kind of thinking about this industrial strategy. We have 7 different elements, and I'm going to go through them individually now. First of all, we need to start with what is brain capital technology, right? So I want to, all of you in the room are involved in different parts of this. We have our Aussies down the back in early childhood brain development, Michael, Sally, and Karen. We need to think about late life and longevity technologies like Scott, what you're doing with determined health, brain performance, education. All these things are brain capital related technologies, right? So I'm saying that like space tech, this is the brain capital industry. And it's very heretical. Maybe because I'm Australian, I'm just going to be bold and just say this stuff. So I look forward to constructive criticism afterwards. So this was what I was saying. It's literally we're just following what we learned from space tech or like green tech. Green tech is nuclear reactors through to solar panels through to wind farms, right? This is the same kind of thing. And who would have thought that we'd all be talking about industrial innovation policy today? But that's what I've been nerding out on in the last maybe 6 months. Important as well beyond the technologies is linkage to critical infrastructure. So this is like what my friend Kwasi said, the liquid space between technology and built and buildings, right? So this is what we need to, if technologies don't solve everything, we know that. How do we link in with schools, universities, hospital systems, things like this? How do we also think about engagement with nature and the built environment in that sense? Financial innovation is critical. There are many financial wizards in the room here that are thinking actively with us about how do we advance this work beyond venture capital to venture philanthropy, public-private partnerships, impact investing. It's important that we inventory all of these opportunities and think about which ones fit for which part of the industrial strategy. This industrial strategy will probably manifest dozens of organizations we don't even know about yet, and we've just launched it on Thursday. So maybe we'll see funds and different things going on in all these different areas. Watch this space. Of course, the workforce is critical. If we were to mobilize and say we want to have $1 trillion brain capital technology industry in 10 years, do we have the workforce for it right now? Can the pharma companies and big tech keep, do we have the workforce? We really don't, right? So that's when we think about universities cranking out next generation entrepreneurs that understand neuroscience and understand the process of translating science to clinical, to policy, and into business. So we need a workforce that's brain healthy, critical thinking, AI literate. We need to think about lifelong education. So that's kind of an interesting part of industrial strategy. It's not just the technology, but it's how do you actually fuel the technology with the right workforce that can engage in private companies, nonprofits, etc. Missions are important. Jonathan, you mentioned missions for what you're doing at Harvard. These missions are terrific, right? Think of the Apollo mission. We wanted to get to the moon. That's a mission that has a defined endpoint. We had a certain amount of resources and we did it. Could we think of missions in, dyslexia? I know the Californians are thinking about missions in dyslexia. We think about, missions in depression, like Jonathan, what you're doing. Can we reduce depression by 10% in 10 years? There are all these different types of missions that we could think about. We need more than one mission, right? We need to have precise different missions, and that's the way we can rally public and private. The public sector alone won't do this. It needs a mixture of both. We, of course, need coordination within government. So we've been thinking a lot about how would you govern this kind of new industrial strategy? What would the White House do, or what would the European Commission do? So we need to think about, AI, responsibilities, business and law, education, neuroscience, and health. We're thinking in the US about OSTP, Office of the President of the United States, and DHHS. So it's interesting to think about how would you actually govern this. This is a form of statecraft in a sense if we're really trying to rally a big industry. An industrial innovation industry, as I said before, technology doesn't solve everything. Sometimes technology can make things worse, right? So we need to nest this innovation strategy within a broader policy framework. This is almost like a post-industrial strategy in a sense. We've written, many of you in the room have been involved in these papers about the role of brain capital in sustainability, food in the brain, youth affairs, democracy, economic security, and neuroshield. So happy to talk to anyone that's interested further about these things. So what could this strategy mean to you? What could it mean to your organization, to your country, to your state? What could it mean to the United Nations? It's an interesting question. What could it mean to your investment fund? We need a coalition of the willing for this, right? Over the last 3 years, we've built up the Brain Capital Alliance as a great coalition of the willing, very transdisciplinary. So what role would you like to play and help us to achieve this? Because this is big and bold, and it's very audacious, it's very risky, but we need to work together as a team. So thank you very much.